What did you learn working with Steve Regal?
That was he's probably I learned all my basics and stuff from Sean and Rudy. A lot of the stuff since then I've learned from Steve just because of his views on things, his views on selling, his views on mat wrestling, his views on a lot of things. I think Steve is probably one of the smartest wrestlers I've ever talked with, and he knows so much. He's been wrestling since he's like 15, and so that's where I learned all my mat wrestling and stuff, and trying to make what you do make sense, and that's what I learned from Steve.
Would you consider your time there a good experience?
Yeah, yeah, definitely, definitely. It was probably the best thing that could have happened to us, just because we got to train with Steve, we got to train with Tracy Smothers and Bobby Eaton and stuff like that, and so it was just one of those. And we got to wrestle 3 or 4 times a week, and that was our full-time job. We didn't have to worry about going to McDonald's, putting in 8 hours, and then doing whatever, and then going to a wrestling show. We got up in the morning, we worked out, we ate, we went to our training or whatever. We came home, we slept, and then on the weekends we did shows. There were really not too many worries, when that's all you're doing.
How did you guys end up working for Power Pro? Were they both MCW and Power Pro working together at the time?
Yeah, I have no idea how that came about or how it dissolved, because we were there. I wasn't in the political know. I'm still not. I try to stay out of that kind of stuff, and so something happened with that was when we lost the Power Pro deal. It had something to do with when Lawler and Stacy, when Lawler quit WWF. That's I think how that thing dissolved. How we got it is, I think, through Lawler too, and so you get it. They got it through Lawler, and then they lost it when Lawler left. I think so because he's so big in Memphis that he's a bigger draw for their Monday or their Saturday morning TV show than any of us would have been. So,
memories of your matches against Reckless Youth.
Reckless was he taught me a lot too. Just about it. That was the first time he was the first person I wrestled outside of TWA guys when we left. And he really taught me a lot about how to put matches together and stuff like that, or how they wanted matches put together and stuff like that. And so Reckless is just so smooth and so easy to wrestle with. It was a real learning experience.
What was it like working against Jerry Lynn?
Jerry Lynn, I was really nervous wrestling Jerry Lynn. My first time wrestling him was a dark match. I think it was in Boston. And it was just one of those matches where I hadn't had a dark match in a really long time. And I was in good wrestling shape because we were wrestling quite a bit. But we went out there and we did a 5-minute TV match. And I swear I could barely stand after the match because I was so tense and my legs were so tight. And so, I was just hurting afterwards, and so I felt really bad too because I kicked him really hard in the head. And he's Jerry Lynn. I just waffled him right in the head, and so I was really nervous.
Did you learn anything wrestling Jerry? Do you have any advice for you?
He didn't really. He was really nice and everything. And when you wrestle guys like that, it's more like it aspires you to be more like them because he's so. The same thing with Reckless. They're so fluid that, and I'm not. They're so fluid that you want to be like that. But he didn't really give me advice. I'd ask him. He said, "No, everything was great. Yeah." And so that's what helps more than anything is realizing how good they are, how far you are behind, and how much you need to how hard you need to work to catch up with them. So.
Did you have a match with Loki in MCW that no one's ever seen before?
Yeah.
What was that like? How did that come about?
That was Loki came down there just he was invited down there or whatever. It was just kind of like he came and did a couple shows or whatever, and it was. It's not like any of the other matches we had. It was it was at a high school or something like that, and there were like 40 people there or something, and it was a typical Memphis match just with me and Loki stuff thrown in it, know. So. I'd like to see it on tape because I think we did some funny stuff in there too, some haha. But I don't really remember it too much.
Were you surprised when they released you guys?
Everybody was a little surprised, I think. We were supposed to have like a week off, or at least, it was a week off. It was around Father's Day. And we just did like 4 big shows right in a row where WWF guys came down and that sort of thing. And we were supposed to have that week off. All of a sudden, the Friday, we were supposed to go home on Sunday. That Friday, they got a call saying that all our trips were canceled because we had a big meeting on Wednesday. And so, and we're like, oh, because they kept having these meetings with us about how, keep trucking on, it's, you guys are going to make it, and they had just bought in WCW and they'd given us a couple speeches already about how, you guys, when we're ready to do WCW TV, you guys are going to be on it, all that kind of good stuff. And so we're like, oh, all this stuff for, just another meeting, whatever. And then we all get there and, I forget who it was that came in and to tell us. I think it was Dennis Brent and somebody else. But one of the first things they said, well, we hate to tell you guys, but we're going to be closing Memphis down, and a lot of you guys are going to be released, and some of you guys are going to be sent to Cincinnati, some of you guys are going to be sent to Louisville. But then they had us all go out into the training room, and then they called us in one by one. And so that was the worst part because, you're out there and whatever, and the hospitalers go in and they come out and, we're going to Cincinnati, Joey Abs goes in, he gets released, and it's like, I was the first one from Sean's school to go in. And
what did you think going in?
When I went in, I wasn't sure. I didn't know. I had no idea. I thought on the one hand, I've worked really hard since I've been here. I'm hoping that they see that, and how much I've improved and I've gotten bigger and everything. But on the other hand, I thought, why are they going to keep me? There's no reason for them to keep me. They've got all these WCW guys in it. It turned out, that they did release me. And, man, it's one of those things where you're like quivering because, it's like, holy cow, your whole life just gets flipped upside down. And so, that whole thing was a fiasco.
How did Spanky and Shooter Schultz react?
Shooter hasn't wrestled since, I don't think. He had just come off an emergency double hernia surgery. And so he never even got back to the he never even got back into the ring after his double hernia surgery. He was just about to come back, and then we all got released. And so Spanky took it just like me. I mean, that was his whole life, It's just wrestling, and we worked our butts off, to try and be better. And so we were both it was really like it was almost like a knockout blow, but it was just tough. So,
how did you decide what you were going to do at that point? What was the first thing that went through your head?
I had no idea, because really the only place I had to live was back in Washington State, and there's not much wrestling up there at all. The closest thing is Canada, which is like 6 hours away. And so I went through some options and stuff like that, and then realized that really was my only option, given my finances and everything like that. And so I thought, while I go home, I'm going to make the best of it. I'm going to start going to college, and I'm going to try and do all the Canada shows that I can, and that sort of thing, and then just work on trying to get bigger. And so that's what I did.
Were there any bad feelings towards Lance Cade since they kept him?
No. Do you know what? Surprisingly, none of us were bitter about it because we all knew. Like, I was surprised Shooter got released. I really was, because he looked fantastic. He was like 5'10", I think, like 225 pounds, and he looked great. His wrestling was perfect for what the WWF wants, and it's really intense. All his stuff looks good. He can kind of work with everybody. So we were surprised that Shooter got released. Lance, I'm not surprised they kept it all because he has so much of an upside. He's got a lot of charisma. He's good at interviews. He does a cowardly interview that's hilarious. And so none of us were bitter. We were happy for Lance, and hopefully, we were all thinking in the back of our minds, I think, hopefully Lance will make it and be big because then someday he can help us back in, so. Did
they give you any reason why they released you?
They told me that they didn't really have a spot for me. Like, it was like, oh, we don't really see a way to fit you into our TV right now, and that's perfectly understandable. So that's all that they told me.
Did they give you to get back on the indies, get some more work?
Yeah, they said we're going to try and get you some work and all, but don't worry, we've been talking to Steve Williams. We're going to try and get you some stuff with All Japan and that sort of thing. And I don't know how much they tried or whatnot, but it was just, it just never came about.
Were you surprised that Shooter Schultz quit?
No. Not really. It's one of those things where he's older than us. Like me and Spanky, I'm 21 now. I think Spanky's 23. Shooter, when we got released, was 26 years old, and he had a girlfriend for like, I don't know, like 3 or 4 years or something like that. And so he had to worry about what he's going to do after wrestling. He can't be sitting there, chasing wrestling when, he's got to get ready for, the rest of his life. So.
How'd you get hooked up working for Jim Kettner in the ECWA?
That was through the Hospitallers. That was all through the Hospitallers. The Hospitallers came down to Memphis in December of 2000, and their first match there, I think, was against me and Shooter, and they wrestled me, and they said they called Jim and said, this guy would be great for your Super 8 tournament or whatever. And so that's how that whole thing came about. Jim Kettner gave me a call one day and said, hey, would you love to do it? And I said, yeah, I'd read about it in the magazines and stuff, and I was really excited about it.
What are your memories of the Super 8, 2001 Super
8? My biggest memory is my ribs hurting really bad. I think I cracked some ribs or something like that. And I was just coming off of a knee injury. I had to wear these red baggy pants because I had a big knee brace that I had to put on under it. I couldn't wear it over my tights or anything. And so that, and then just, it was fun. It was a really fun wrestling show to be on, and all the guys were cool. And other than that, I don't remember much about it. Just that.
A lot of people, work harder, let's say, in Jim Kettner's promotion because he has a relationship with WWE. Did you feel any pressure going into the tournament?
I didn't know he had any ties to WWE. I honestly didn't. I had no idea. I felt pressure on myself because I was like, wow, these guys are good and these guys don't have deals, It was actually me and Spanky came back from the whole thing realizing how lucky we were to have deals, because there were guys out there who were just as good or better than we were, who didn't have deals, who were struggling on the indies, who nobody really knew about, and so we came back from the thing really humbled more than anything else. So there wasn't, I guess there was a lot of pressure and there wasn't. So
watch thousands of exclusive shoot interviews right now on TitleMatchNetwork.com.